is such an interesting dimension. We are experiencing time in this dimension, and especially in our society, we look at time from a linear perspective, which means that we go forth in time, right? We go from 2025 to 2026. But what if I tell you guys that the real dimension of time is not linear in nature, it is cyclical in nature, which basically means that we are continuously repeating certain patterns based on time. Time is very important in a very important dimension in our life. So guys, this is a nice thought experiment. I really like this, so let's play along, okay? What if you are being placed in a box, right? And in that box, time doesn't exist. Time, it doesn't exist because the only thing that is real, that is this moment. There is only one moment, and that is this moment. But in that box, I'm going to create the illusion of time. So in that box, in that moment, which always is one moment, I will create a light, and that light will go, that will make a certain path in that one moment, right? And that will disappear as well in that one moment. If you look at it from your perspective, when you are inside that box, it will create the illusion of day and night. It will create the illusion that something is going on and on. And this is exactly what we have right now in our real dimension of time. In that case, time doesn't really exist because we only have now. The illusion of time is created, or we experience time in a stretched way because of these cyclical events in nature, like day and night, like the seasons. And guys, that is not linear. That is not linear, that is cyclical in nature. Everything that determines our time is cyclical and not linear, which means that we are not going from 2025, 26, 27. No, we are going in circles. The whole theory of counting these cyclical patterns into numbers and create a linear fashion out of this is kind of like a psyop, because that is not real. We are going in circles. That's why they also say history doesn't repeat itself, but it surely does rhyme. The radiation of the celestial bodies, they are the main cause of the changes on this planet. And a very small example is, for example, the moon. The moon has a very big influence on the ebb and flow and the tides of the ocean. But guys, do you get what I'm saying? It's very, very interesting. Because if you would create a separate environment where time doesn't exist, only one moment, and you would put a light every single moment, you can create very easily the illusion of time. Another interesting topic on this subject is remote viewing and dreams. Or maybe even time traveling that may be possible already right now, but maybe in the future. Because, and this is explaining my point as well, if you right now can dream of a future event that is going to take place, then the moment you are dreaming and you can see that future event, which we've talked about in previous videos, then that event actually already happened. It's all happening at one time, which is one moment, which is the here and now. It's all happening here and now, but we don't experience it like this. We are living in this illusion of a certain time. For example, if you think about time traveling, right? If you can enter another time right now, you can travel, for example, into the future, and you can travel into the past from here and now. That means that that future or that past is here and now too. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to travel there, right? You go from this now into the now of the future, our illusion of the future, or into the now of the past. It's very funny to think about it because it's such a crazy way to look. The reason that I'm interested in it is because time is the most important factor when you analyze stocks or when you analyze crypto. I'm using time into my analysis as the number one priority of making financial decisions. And it becomes even more interesting if you can interpret the celestial bodies and the energies, their cause and the effects of this planet. Because if you can do that, you can be very accurate in your price predictions on certain stocks and certain assets like crypto. There have been traders in the past. One of them is a very well-known trader. His name is William Delbert Gann, and he had a accuracy rate, what was known. There are different sources about this, but an accuracy rate of 90%. So on 90% of his predictions, he was right. And that is an insane amount to reach in the financial markets, because most traders, they will have a trading strategy that will give them 51% or 55% or 58%. But a 90% accuracy rate is really insane. And he achieved that by studying the celestial bodies, because the real cause for the effects that are happening on this planet are in the celestial bodies. And the celestial bodies, guys, is the real clock of this planet. It's not the clock that you and me are looking at. It's not the digital clock. It's not the calendar that we know. It is the celestial bodies. Those are the wheels of time. And the linear fashion that we look at time is a very old school, primitive way of looking at the dimension of time. You know who also used astrology for certain predictions from certain events? You probably recognize this guy, right? It's pretty crazy because he used a lot of esoteric stuff, because there was one attack on him and with a bomb, and they used the pieces of that bomb, they used it to go to a medium, to a psychic, and then that psychic would put these pieces of that bomb against her head and try to come up with who was actually the attacker, who placed that bomb there. And a couple of days before that bomb attack was executed on Hitler, there was an astrologer. His name was Karl Ernst Kraft. He was from Switzerland. He actually predicted that something is going to happen on these dates, and this is something where Hitler was very impressed with, and this what was making him becoming more enthusiastic to look further into astrology and certain predictions and psychic abilities and all this stuff, because it's pretty well known that in the Second World War the Nazi Party was very much interested in these phenomena. And it actually looks like they also were pretty scared of the astrologers, because they put them eventually in jail, and then they put them out of jail again because they wanted his service again, and then they wanted to put him in jail again, and then he said like he just doesn't want to cooperate anymore, and eventually died in 1945. And there are also some stories that when the Cold War was taking place, that a lot of information that Russia gathered was actually done through remote viewing. So the Americans were suddenly at a point where they were thinking like, hey, how is it possible that Russia has all this information? And they were starting to do more research on how Russia would get that information. And they came to the conclusion that they actually got that information because Russia was investing heavily in these psychics, basically, who were doing remote viewing, and then got that information. So it's actually pretty crazy. And I think recently on the Joe Rogan podcast, there was also an ex-CIA officer who also said that the CIA is big time involved in remote viewing, that they have a lot of programs that is focusing on these subjects, on these things. But I can't find it now actually, but I remember that I've read in this book as well with these astrologers back in the Second World War, that there was an accuracy rate of roughly 80 to 90%. And I found it very interesting, that number, because 80 to 90% is exactly the accuracy rate what William Delbert Gann could reach with predicting the price of certain assets and certain stocks. So that's pretty crazy, because I wonder where they get that number from, 80 to 90%. And it's also pretty scary how accurate some predictions actually can be. And I think most people do not really understand how astrology works, because of course otherwise a lot of people could predict many things. But I think if you truly understand how it works, and it will take maybe even decades to really understand it, because it's very difficult subject. But if you truly understand it, I believe this is the real causation for actions and things that are manifestations that are basically happening on this planet. So once you truly understand it, you can use it to make very accurate predictions. And that's also why I like it so much, because I really like the financial markets. And when you want to win in the markets, you got to have an edge, right? And you can have an edge in a lot of ways. Your emotional state can be an edge as well. But if you understand the dimension of time very, very good, and you can apply astrology, and you can analyze the astral bodies or the celestial bodies, and you can analyze that with the time that we are looking from a linear fashion, and you can see certain correlations, it can be very powerful, and it can provide a big edge in investing. I believe so. Some predictions actually very accurate, because this was a prediction craft. The same astrologer, he only get 2 birth dates from 2 persons, and he get the handwriting but not the name, so he didn't know who these persons were. And he gave actually a prediction. He said one of those persons will get a very big position, but in 1940 something catastrophic will happen. And then one of the guys was actually the King Carol of Romania, and he was forced to step down as a king in September 1940. Pretty interesting. And that's also with William Delbert Gann, because he also stated very clearly that he expects in 1929 to see the start of a very big recession, a very big market crash. And 1929 is actually the start of the Great Depression, which lasted quite some time, but was a huge event that happened in the markets, huge event that happened in the United States, globally probably. But he did say that 1929 will be the year that we are going to see the start of a massive crash. And I personally believe, guys, that 2028 and 2029 will be of a similar fashion. But I gotta be honest, my skills are not even close to the astrologers that we have discussed today. And I would really love to just understand more of this subject. And my last insight for today, guys, is to build relationships slowly. Do not rush into relationships, because this is very dangerous. Because if we look at the evil in this world, they often use speed, because when there is speed involved, you will not notice all the small details. And it's the same with, for example, if somebody is trying to scam you, they always want to create this urgency, like fast, right now. You got to invest in this today, otherwise it will not work anymore. Only today. These are big red flags, because they are using speed into their advantage. Because if you go along with their emotional trick, so to say, you will feel like that FOMO feeling. Whoa, I gotta do it right now. Well, actually, no. Put it to the test of time. Very important. Relationships, opportunities that you get. Of course, sometimes you gotta act a little bit quickly. You will know intuitively when that's a good sign. But with relationships, for example, most of the time, acting too quick, rushing into something is almost never a good idea. And that counts for business relationships, it counts for romantic relationships, it counts for friendships, because you have to discern with who you're dealing with, and you cannot discern a person in a week time, right? You got to put things to the test. You got to take a distance, and then you have to marinate on all the things that have happened, and then discern for yourself, hey, I like this part of it. Hey, this part was actually a little bit weird. What kind of intention does this person has when he does something like this? So that's why sometimes taking things slowly is the fast lane. Taking things slowly is the fast lane. Guys, that was my barbecue wisdom for this video. I wish you a beautiful day. I'm gonna enjoy my meat, and I hope to see all of you in the next video. Bye bye.